Hi guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be giving you my full review of the Nike Zoomfly 3s after 850 miles. So it's fair to say that I've put the Zoomfly 3s through a fair test. I mean, 850 miles, that's a long way. You won't find many reviews above that, maybe not even any. And I've definitely used them for a range of runs. I mean, I've used them on my easy runs, my long runs, speed work, anything really. Because when I first got this shoe, I didn't have any other shoes in my rotation, so I used them for everything I did. As short as 200 meter probably reps, and as high as I ran a trail marathon in these shoes, so it's fair to say that they've got the range of runs in them. So I'd say the Zoomfly 3 mainly shine on sort of speed work, but not too fast, so more like tempo work and threshold work, and also I'd say they're definitely a good option for a long run shoe. But they're definitely not the best option for the easy runs. They're not very smooth when going at a slow pace. They're quite bottom heavy actually, but we'll get more into that when we talk about the midsole. So I mean, Nike have this shoe definitely down as a training shoe, but I would say that the Zoomfly 3 could be used for some longer racing shoe, maybe half marathon, 10k marathon type distances, because they've got a carbon plate in there, so you definitely have some propulsiveness to push you towards those race paces. But I wouldn't say they're the best option, but it's not going to be a bad option for someone who doesn't want to spend in excess of £200 on their racing shoes. But before we do go into our thoughts on the whole shoe, we will talk about the specifications first. So for a UK size 8 and a US size 9, we've got 8.9 ounces of weight. That equates to 252 grams. They're definitely not the lightest shoe out there, but I mean, they're not completely heavy. Like, people are saying that the Zoomfly 3 is too heavy, but I don't think 252 grams for a size 8 is incredibly heavy. I'd say it's around the average for a training shoe. So in terms of stack, we've got an 8mm drop from heel to toe. In the heel we've got 36mm of stack, and in the toe we've got 28mm. So they're definitely a high stack shoe. So I mean, this shoe is definitely made for road running, but when I took it for my trail marathon, which is on screen right now, Strava, it did cope well with the conditions. I mean, it was in the summer, so it was very dry mud, and they weren't very technical trails. They were just completely like through fields and paths like that along the cliffs, no like mountainous terrain, so they didn't have too hard conditions to work with, but they did manage it well. So I'd say some light trail use isn't out of the question, but definitely a road shoe. So now we're going to move on to my thoughts on the upper of the Zoomfly 3. So in here we've got the Vapor Weave upper, the upper that's used in Nike's famous Vaporfly Next Percent, which is their best racing shoe at the moment. Most of the pros use it despite having the Alphafly Next Percent as an option. So I'd say that at the moment this upper is definitely one of Nike's top range uppers. So I'd say the best thing that stands out about the Vaporweave upper is its durability. I mean, there's no scratching or any tearing in the upper after 850 miles, which is a lot of distance in the shoe. It's over 1,300 kilometers. So definitely a good thing that there's no tearing or anything like that in the upper. Really good on that front. So I mean, I used this shoe for around a year, from November 2019 to November 2020, and there wasn't any rubbing in the shoe, despite the fact that my feet are still growing and the shoe is a size 7.5, and now I buy shoes around 9.5. So I say that the upper isn't a constricting upper on your foot. Like, if your feet grow, it kind of pushes out the upper, and the upper sort of is a bit malleable to your foot, if that makes sense. So very good on that front as well, and they're not too brittle or hard wearing against your foot, because I never got any blister issues or anything like that when I was wearing the shoe. So around the heel area and the tongue area, it's really comfortable around your foot. It fits like very similarly to a sock. It wraps around your foot well. There's definitely no slipping or lockdown issues. So a lot of people say that the Vaporweave material doesn't provide much breathability, and honestly I would agree. I mean, it's quite a strong upper, and if you're going to have durability, then you're going to lack in breathability. Honestly, when I'm looking for a shoe, breathability isn't something that I need. I mean, they felt fine in the summer. I never thought my foot was uncomfortable or sweaty or anything like that when I was using the shoe. The one problem that I did find though is the laces are quite long. In fact, the first time I took the shoe out for a run, I was just jogging along the roads and my laces were tied, double knotted, but they were so long that I did trip over them and I got cut on my knee. So that's definitely an issue that they need to sort out. The laces were just simply too long. So I mean, Nike have put on a very solid upper here to the Zoomfly 3. So overall, I'm going to give them an 8 out of 10 score for the upper. A nice way to start off the shoe. Now, moving on to the midsole. So in here, we've got Nike's React Foam accompanied with a carbon plate. Nike's React Foam is made to gruel out your training miles, definitely, with a bit of durability. It isn't too responsive, it's definitely very firm, it isn't soft. And I'd say that if this shoe wasn't accompanied with a carbon plate, then you definitely struggle for some energy return, as the React Foam doesn't provide any of that. So a lot of people say, as I've mentioned before, that the Nike Zoomfly 3 is a heavy shoe, but I mean, I can't entirely agree with that. 8.9 ounces isn't extremely heavy. I'd say it's more of an average weight for a training shoe. But I'd say that the reason why it does feel a bit clunky on a slower run is because the midsole provides almost all of the weight. All of your weight is underneath your foot, so you've got to drag it back up, whereas the upper is feather light. The Vaporwave really doesn't weigh much at all. The midsole is definitely quite heavy, and on an easier run, it just isn't enjoyable. On the tempo paces, it definitely does improve, and I'd say that it's a solid option for tempos and long runs, as the propulsiveness is definitely there from the carbon plate. So we've got some scrapings and definitely some wear in the midsole, but I'd say that to last 850 miles, and I probably could have pushed this shoe on if my feet didn't grow out of it, to 1,000 miles, the midsole is definitely a very durable material. So overall, the midsole's pretty average, and I'm going to give a 6 out of 10 rating. Now we're going to move on to the outsole of the shoe. So as you can see here on the bottom of the shoe, there's definitely quite a lot of exposed foam. But on another look, the exposed foam doesn't look too worn down or anything like that. So I'd say that in terms of placement of the outsole, Nike have nailed it with this outsole. In terms of the material of the outsole, it's a relatively thick rubber material put on the bottom here. Very similar to that of the Vaporfly Next Percent, which is obviously a racing shoe. So there isn't a lot of outsole on there, but I'd say that maybe it's slightly thicker, so it does provide quite a lot of durability. And they've placed it well again, so I'd say that they've done pretty well here. There definitely is a lot of wear on the outsole, but I'd say that you would definitely expect this after a distance of 850 miles. I'd say that maybe this wear could have been reduced a little bit, as the grip was a bit iffy towards the end of the 850 miles, but generally it was okay, and that's the only fault I can find with the outsole, so I'm going to give a 9 out of 10 rating for the outsole. Alright, so now we're going to move on to our fourth and final category, value. So the Nike Zoomfly 3 come in at £140 here in the UK for retail price. I think that's probably around $150, $160 in the US. So we're going to start a new thing for value of shoes. So we're going to divide the money spent on the shoe by the amount of miles to find a cost per miles, to see how much we paid for each mile of running in a shoe. And then we can compare it between all our different types of shoes to see where different shoes rank up against each other. So on screen right now will be the calculation that we did, £140 divided by 850 miles. It came to around 16 to 17p. So 16 to 17p per mile, I think that's really low. So I think we've done really well here for value. So I'm going to say that you get a carbon plate, a lot of durability, and we're going to give a 9 out of 10 for value. Alright, so overall the Zoomfly 3 has scored a decent 32 out of 40. I believe it's fell short of the Pegasus Turbo 2 and the Endorphin Speed, but overall it's done decently. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to give it a like and give us a comment down below of what we could do better next time, and as always, make sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time.